This Ag Business Update brought to you by American Implement, indebted to the past, committed to the future. In a moment, Washburn's Dr. Roger McEowen.
S&S Trailer Sales, with 2 locations in Ness City, Kansas, is where everybody goes to buy or rent trailers. They feature the all-new, all-aluminum Mauer grain trailer with all of the electric options, the easy-to-load detached trailers, and a huge stock of header trailers. At the west location, you'll find bumper pulls, goosenecks, and oilfield specialty trailers, along with flat and utility beds for pickups. S&S Trailer Sales in Ness City and on the web, but remember, you do have to spell out the "and."
And once again, joining us, Dr. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law, the Ag and Tax Law Specialist. Good morning, Dr. McEowen.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And once again, now last year, let's start again. Dang it. I want to screw that one up. I've done that already. Okay. Take 2 in 3, 2, 1. And joining us now is Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. He is an Ag and Tax Law Specialist. Good morning, Dr. McEowen.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Ken.
Always enjoy these monthly conversations. Now, last month we kind of give a random kind of 10 things that agriculture went through the legal system. Now you have worked on your top 10 list, and so and we're going to talk about that in the program today. So let's get at it. And the first thing that you see, number 10, dealing with wind energy.
Yeah, Ken, this was a federal court opinion really late in 2023, and it's the first time I've ever seen a federal court order an entire wind farm to be disassembled and removed and damages paid to all of the landowners. This will involve 84 wind towers spread over 8,400 acres of the Osage Nation in Oklahoma. And the federal court said the reason was that the company, as ordered by the 10th Circuit a few years ago, failed to get a mineral lease for that ground, and their activities were deemed to constitute mining, which needed a federal mineral lease. Their failure to do so meant that they had to remove everything. They're done.
Wow. Okay. Now, number 9, reporting foreign income. Why was this so unique this year?
Well, this is a big issue because we had a U.S. Supreme Court opinion on this. And what the issue involves is if you have a foreign bank account of a balance of at least $10,000 at any point during the year, you have to file a particular form with the Financial Crimes Network, which is a bureau of the U.S. Treasury. So it's kind of like the IRS. And there are severe penalties that kick in if you don't file that form. This is a big issue for us in agriculture because of some farmers, some of the larger farming operations might have farmland that they've acquired in Brazil or in Canada, and there might be a bank account associated with that. And so there's this filing requirement that is triggered. The U.S. Supreme Court said in 2023 that the penalties, which are enormous, are computed on a basis of the form that has to be filed each year, not the number of bank accounts. And what was at issue in the case was a gentleman that had 273 foreign accounts, and the IRS wanted almost $3 million in penalties. And the court said, no, it's $10,000 per failure to file the form. He failed to do that for 5 years, so the penalty was $50,000. So much reduced penalty, but it still points out how important it is to file that form if you have any type of foreign bank account.
And number 8 was the new corporate filing requirements.
Yes, this is actually a law that started back in 2021, but it's taking effect in 24, which made it very important for people to understand what was coming in 2023. And this will apply to a lot of farming operations. Any type of business that is registered with the state by a filing, for example, with the Secretary of State's office, now has a responsibility to file a form by the end of 2024. If you were in existence prior to 2024, you have until the end of this year to file the required forms. This is with the federal government. This is another requirement designed to deal with fraud and the use of shell companies to hide income. That's what the IRS is after here. So if the people that have to report are, again, as I said, if you file a form or if you register with the state for your business, and you must report the owners of at least 25% of your business interests in that company. It's going to be a headache. There are severe penalties if you don't file. So we're just trying to get the word out about this one because it is so pervasive and it will catch a lot of farming operations, smaller ones, because you're not exempt unless you have revenue on your most recently filed tax return that exceeds $5 million. So the bigger operations are exempt. They're covered under another law. Smaller operations are going to have to file.
And number 7, a prison sentence for 5 folks were involved in this billion-dollar biofuel tax fraud kind of conspiracy.
Yeah, this the financial or not the financial crimes, but the IRS Criminal Investigation Division calls this the biggest tax fraud case in U.S. history. And it makes my list because we had an ag products that were involved here, biofuels and ethanol in particular. What it involved was a scam involving the RINs that are used and that are associated with ethanol production. And when you have a buyer and a seller that are on the take with respect to the RINs that are used, and when they can be separated before actual sale of the product to the consumer, which happens with biodiesel. When both parties are on the take, then you can have massive fraud. And this was in the multi-billions of dollars of fraud, resulted in lots of prison time for the people involved. Just a terrible thing that happened.
We're talking with Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. We're talking about his top 10 list on 2023 dealing with agriculture in the courtroom and through the legal system. We'll take a break, come back with more in just a moment.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception: keeping electricity affordable.
Wheatland Electric, delivering energy for life, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
And our guest is Dr. Roger McEowen, the Washburn School of Law. We're talking about his top 10 list of agriculture in the courtroom throughout the legal system of 2023. And now we are at number 6, self-employment tax and some limited partners. What were the developments there?
Well, this was a big full opinion of the tax court in 2023, Ken, involving a case that really relates to some regulations that the IRS proposed in 1997 and the Congress froze in 1998, and still has not told us what their view on this is. So the IRS has pushed forward with their regulation, the proposed reg, and the tax court is saying they're going to follow the reg. What this boils down to is whether I can have an LLC or a limited partnership and structure my limited partner interest as a state law defined limited partner interest and not have the distributions paid to the limited partners be subject to self-employment tax. The answer to that question is if you're in agriculture, yes. But if you are an investor or you are a personal services business, the answer is no on that. And there's a bigger case coming, and I think the tax court laid down a marker here for the next case that's coming involving Steve and Cohen, the owner of the New York Mets. And that one is worth billions of dollars on the self-employment tax side. But if the tax court is going to follow what the IRS regs say, then that's good news for us in agriculture. That allows us another tax planning option for our farmers and ranchers that we're pretty sure about now.
All right, and number 5 is something that we have been talking about quite a bit, and that has to do with the Missouri River and the Army Corps' mismanagement of that river.
Yeah, a federal court opinion in 2023 said the Corps was responsible for releasing too much water into the Missouri River from the Gavin's Point Dam in South Dakota at a time when the river levels were already at historic highs because of excessive snowmelt in Montana. They did so because they changed their manual about 20 years ago, claiming that they needed more water in the Missouri as a result of requirements under the Endangered Species Act. The court said, well, that might be the case, but you in essence took a flowage easement on those farms that adjoined that Missouri River, and under the Constitution, the Fifth Amendment, the government has to pay for the taking of that flowage easement. So a lot of damages are going to have to be paid by the government to those farmers that were disaffected all the way from northeast Kansas, basically up to Fargo, North Dakota.
When you've had a best friend for over 50 years, you develop a trust. And the Scott Co-op has been a trusted rural friend since 1957. A co-op keeps money in the area, doing business for and with their members. and that helps keep their hometown thriving with keeping money in the community. Scott Co-op is not just an elevator. It's the rural way of doing business. So, when you see an elevator, remember your friends at Scott Co-op.
And joining us once again is Dr. Roger McEowen, Ag and Tax Law Specialist at the Washburn School of Law. Thanks, Dr. McEowen, for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think you're about the only one we ever stick around because there's always so much good information. But what we're doing is we're going through the top 10, the way you have ranked agriculture, going through the legal system. We're going to do a quick review to get to this point. Last week, we did 10 through 5. 10 was the entire commercial wind development. There was order removed in one facility. Reporting foreign income was number 9. Number 8, a new corporate reporting requirements. 7 was a prison sentence for 5 people involved in $1 billion bio tax fuel conspiracy. Number 6 was self-employment tax and limited partner situation. And number 5 was the Corps of Engineers mismanaging water levels on the Missouri River. So we have the last 4 left. Let's go to number 4. This had to deal with the employee retention credit, or the ERCs.
Yeah, what a mess in 2023 was the ERC. And this, you may have even yourself personally gotten an email or a text from a group that was promoting the ERC saying, you're entitled to this credit, why don't you file for it? It got to be such a problem, Ken, in 2023 that the IRS shut down completely processing of claims for the fourth quarter of 2023. They just couldn't keep up with all the fraud. And so to just stop that, they just stopped all claims, even legitimate ones, and ramped up their enforcement efforts. What this is a program that Congress created during the virus years with the intent that they would try to help employers monetarily with an incentive to keep their employees on the payrolls. And so they created this retention credit. It can be a massive amount. Largely, farmers will not qualify for this, because one, you had to have a shutdown by a government order. Well, farmers didn't shut down, you keep working. And then secondly, if that wasn't the case, if you weren't ordered to shut down, you had to have a certain amount of decline in revenues. Well, those years were actually pretty good for a lot of farmers. So revenues went up, and then IRS said the supply chain issues are not a basis to claim the credit upon. So a lot of farmers were misled, and now we're dealing with a voluntary disclosure program. IRS is providing amnesty to people if you did receive funds and now you just figured out that, oh, I shouldn't have done that, that you can come clean with no problem. So this one lingers into 2024, but massive fraud, and just affected the whole sector of the economy.
In 2023, agriculture made several appearances at the highest court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and one of those is your number 3. And that's Prop 12 out in California.
Yeah, this is the case where California came up with some rules in 2018. Their legislature passed a law that said if you want to sell pork products, as well as other types of meat products, but the case we're going to talk about focused on pork. If you want access to the California market, then the pork must be raised, the hogs must be raised in a fashion that comports with California's rules. And if you can't certify that, can't establish that, then you can't sell pork products in California, which is a big deal because they have about 13 or 14% of the national market for pork, even though they don't raise hardly any pork. So their rules don't affect themselves. And the Supreme Court said that the parties challenging that, the large pork organizations, failed to state a claim on which relief could be granted. So they dismissed the case. It was poorly pled under the Commerce Clause and the Dormant Commerce Clause, and so the rule stands. There were some judges that would have sent it back to the trial court for trial on the matter, but here it is. Here we are, and so some justices and myself also concerned about what other states could do in reaction to that. So watch this to play out even further on other issues between states as we go forward on economic commerce issues.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law is joining us. This is our second part, looking at the top 10 issues from 2023 for agriculture throughout the legal system. We'll take a quick break, back with more, and wrap it up in just a moment.
Wolfter Construction and Irrigation has been around a long time, and a lot of folks have trusted them to design, build, and service all sizes of commercial and on-farm storage for grain and equipment. Wolfter is also known for their outstanding irrigation division, where they stock a complete selection of nozzles, regulators, drops, gear drives, electrical, and structure components. Looking for an electric motor? Wolfter has a large selection in single and three-phase. Next time, reach out to the pros who have decades of experience at taking care of business the right way. Wolfter Construction and Irrigation.
And Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law, the Ag and Tax Law Specialist, is joining us yet again this week as we're wrapping up his top 10 list of agriculture through the legal system in the courtroom for 2023. We're now down to the last two, and these are two big ones. Number 2, foreign ownership of land. Now, if this hasn't caught the attention of almost everyone, I don't know what issue has.
Right. It was huge all across the country in 2023, and it was kind of a continuation from 2022. But numerous state legislatures, as well as the Congress, either proposed rules or enacted rules. And then we had a couple of court opinions in 2023, one in particular involving the Florida statute, which the court upheld as not a constitutional violation of various rights that were asserted. But this is a big issue because of obviously high-profile issues in recent years, particularly concerning actions of China, the flyover of a spy balloon in 2023, certain acquisitions of land near military bases. That's really put it in the public's eyes and has brought it before the attention of numerous state legislatures. And in my article behind this, I talk about the states that took the action and proposed significant legislation in 23, and there are a lot of those. And the Florida statute, as I indicated, is probably the most aggressive, along with Arkansas. And you had the governor actually require divestiture of some foreign-owned land. So expect this issue to continue in 2024, but it was certainly a big one in 23.
Well, and number 1 is probably the bigger issue, even than foreign ownership, and that is waters of the U.S., another one that made it all the way to the Supreme Court.
And here we are again for about 50 years, this issue of what is a WOTUS and what is the government's jurisdiction over navigable water of the United States found its way back to the U.S. Supreme Court in a significant opinion, in the Sackett opinion, which was decided on May 25. And basically what we had was the court going back to what the Trump era rule was with respect to the definition of a WOTUS, and moving away from this adjacency definition and requiring a continuous surface water flow from a wet area to an actual water of the United States, a navigable water of the United States, as that is defined. The case involved a couple from northern Idaho that had a lot that they wanted to put a house on that was about 100 yards from a navigable water of the United States, from Priest Lake. And all 9 justices said that's not a WOTUS. Their lot is not a wetland subject to Clean Water Act jurisdiction. And we got this new test that kind of takes us back, I think, to the original intent of what the Congress was doing back in the 1970s. This will be challenged. I don't think this issue is over, but we do, I think, have more clear guidance as to what the definition is than we've had for quite some time.
Okay, Dr. McEowen, there it is. There's the top 10 list of what you have seen as in your order of significant events, agriculture throughout the legal system. So folks who want to review this even a little further, we were able to get to, and other things that are working their way already into 2024, how can folks find them?
Keep track of these by reading my blog, which is accessible off my website, which is washburnlaw.edu/WALTR.
All right, Dr. McEowen, we look forward to talking with you again next month. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law. He is an ag and tax law specialist. He joins us every month here. Quick break. Back with more coming up in just a moment.
Okay, good deal.
Would you like to see something done about high gas prices and low unemployment? Western Place Energy in Campus, Kansas is doing something about it. They're a proud part of Growth Energy, America's ethanol supporters, and they employ 38 people and will be adding more following the expansion. Ethanol fuel not only reduces the cost of regular gasoline, it's good for the environment and keeps money right here in the United States while supporting local rural jobs. Western Plains Energy, doing something for the future.
KBUF Radio has agriculture information every weekday beginning at 6 with Agriculture Today, 7 to 11. It is the KBUF Morning Show, where we have updates and interviews with newsmakers, talk a lot about the markets, weather, and anything to help make you make good decisions on the farm and ranch. You can follow along on our social media pages. You can listen to KBUF or any Western Kansas broadcast station online, westernkansasnews.com. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.